Hey guys, I just wanted to do my review of Legends of Tomorrow, Season 1, Episode 12, Last Refuge. So, the episode's continuing off from when the Legends find out about the Pilgrim, who's been sent back by the Time Masters to assassinate the younger versions of the team, and it shows like a guy been put on trial before the Time Masters and how he's been erased from existence by the Pilgrim, and it has an effect similar to how Eobard Thawne was erased from existence at the end of season one of The Flash. And the first stop is Central City 1990 to get a younger version of Mick Rory after he accidentally burned out his family's home, and he was the only survivor. And it's Ray who comes in and fire and intercepts the Pilgrim and attacks the Pilgrim, and then tells Rory, "Come with me if you want to live." I always wanted to say that. And which is followed by another stop to Starling City in 2007, in which a younger Sarah, who's still in college, hasn't gone away on the Queen's Gambit, is they're doing a criminal justice paper on for college, and there's a bit of like a bit of banter back and forth between her and Detective Lance, and this is like and you can tell she's almost like a complete kind of a different character at this point, considering she's she has the bangs, and of course she has a much more cutesy, little bit of like mousy voice, like Katie Lotz did that to like distinguish, and of course like the immaturity, kind of a little bit of like a daddy's girl persona to distinguish the two Sarahs, the older mature version, the older world weary version, and like the image, the young, like carefree version. And then of course the Pilgrim starts attacking, knocks out Lance and the other and almost all the officers in the precinct, and it's the older Sarah and it's the White Canary and Heatwave that come to her rescue. And at least there's like little funny banter on the ship where it's like young Sarah slaps young Mick because in the cargo bay, because Mick was saying how he likes how she smells, and an older Sarah just tells him, first of all keep to yourself, and second of all do a flat palm next time, and you're not her type. And I just gotta know, there was actually a lot of comedy considering the stakes in this episode, but there are still stakes nonetheless, especially since and then I guess the other stop would be, and of course, and at first that they can't track the Pilgrim's activities throughout time anymore, up until Ray starts suffering from internal injuries, and they realize that his past self is being attacked by the Pilgrim in Starling City on December 19th of 2014, which was around the events of the mid-season finale of Arrow. So it's Rip and Firestorm that get the Palm attack to rescue the younger Ray, but the problem is that the Pilgrim has the ability to manipulate time, and so she's able to freeze Firestorm in place and deflect his blast back at him. So it's up to Rip in order to save younger Ray by using one of Ray's atom gauntlets to blast the Pilgrim out the window. Younger Ray is taken to a hospital in Starling City, and for the rest of the team, they basically have to go up. They decide, because they can't track the Pilgrim anymore, they decide just go track their younger selves when they're babies. Which leads to this funny moment when Sarah and Kendra go to abductive Leonard Snart, and they're in the hospital, and Sarah's saying something like, alright, this is like any other mission, this mark may be a newborn, but it might as well be a diamond or a microchip. Kendra says she sounds like Snart, and Sarah acts disgusted. Sarah says, look for the one with horns, and Kendra starts doing this like little cutesy voice and like reacting to how adorable the baby is, and Sarah tells them tell them they have to go. And then when Sarah sees a younger Snart, she starts doing the exact same the exact same thing, being like, "Oh, you're just the cutest little baby in the world." And again, it's like, a lot of moments of comedy in which, they go to pick up a younger Martin Stein in, I think it was in the 50s, just after he's been given birth to, in the back of a car. They try to act, Rip and Rory try to act like they're doctors, trying to give him a checkup, but they have the moments where Rory forgets, like, there are no cell phones in that era, and saying that he needs to get a prenatal checkup instead of a postnatal checkup. And they're all taken, and Rip just has to take them to an orphanage. It is not all the past versions to an orphanage, and it's not stated where, but it's run by Rip's foster mother, who basically, is where all future Time Masters are raised. And even though she's a Time Master herself, she says her loyalties to her family rather than the Time Masters themselves. And then when they have to, then there's a moment where they actually just like take off. The ship actually takes off. She's looking out the window, like, concerned about Rip's well-being. It's almost like she seems like very conflicted, and you think, oh, maybe she's going to turn on them. But then it turns out the Pilgrim gives them an ultimatum in which she kidnaps family members from the past of the team, and they said they have to turn over their younger selves or their relatives die, and that included Lisa Snart, Martin Stein's wife, and Quentin Lance, and of course Jax's dad, who was a soldier who was supposed to go into combat, but died before he even go into combat during, I think it was Operation Desert Storm, but ended up getting killed. And at first, Jax got to see him in the hospital, got to talk to him in the hospital during the kidnapping, and attempted to get some closure, but he just felt bad because he originally didn't tell him about how he was going to die. But then of course, Rip decides to hand over his younger self in exchange for saving the family members. And it turns out that one of the orphans was a younger version of Rip, so he's brought along as part of the exchange, but it's pretty much a setup for the Legends to ambush the Pilgrim. And even though he freezes all of them in place, and makes a nice kind of like Matrix-like shot, and you're kind of this tension of, how, has any of them was able to, like, get one shot and, like, hit her, and then you realize that it's the younger Rip that's starts stabbing her, which gives them enough time to the Legends to basically disintegrate her. And you find out that from Rip that what made him a more interesting character is that, one, he feels bad about all the people they've been putting in danger, and that he's being selfish, and also about the fact that it turns out he was living out in the streets, having to fight to survive until he was taken in by his foster mother, and she's also the same person who tells him to stop feeling sorry for himself and get on with the mission. And there's also this moment between the younger and older versions of Mick when he's talking to his younger self, and he's showing disgust and how much he loves the fire, and blaming him for maybe a part of him wanted his family to die and just be the only survivor. And when the younger one says that you sound like my dad, it hits him hard. And then the older Mick just tells him that the fire wasn't his fault, and how he spent a lot of time hating himself for it, but he was just a kid, he just didn't know any better, and tells him just to be, just don't turn out to be like him, be better. And of course, when all and Sarah gives Quentin Lance a amnesia pill, which they ironically had and could have used maybe for the last episode. And basically Jack has a conversation with his dad and warning him about what's going to happen in hopes that maybe it'll change the timeline. And Rip tries to be optimistic and maybe things will be changed for the better, or maybe time will be set in stone. But he also just tells the team that basically because taking their younger selves away from their previous points in time, like the ripple effect is starting to kick in, and because they don't know where else Vandal Savage can be in other points in the past, they basically have to go and face him in the year 2166 at the height of his power anyway, which they were trying to avoid. So it leads to the certain, it basically feels like, their backs are against the wall. Is it's now or never. We gotta take him out when we can. There's this whole thing where even though they might not be able to prevent the future, they might be able to at least prevent the bad future. They might, if anything, be able to overthrow him. And it does. And like I said, there's a lot of sense of tension with her being relentless and threatening to kill the other family members, but she's gonna get her targets, the Pilgrim, and there are a lot of moments of comedy and levity, and still again, the whole thing with Ray and Kendra, it's still the same thing. Ray proposes when he thinks he's gonna be erased from existence, but then he overhears Kendra talking to Sarah and having doubts, and then Ray's fiance from the past is brought on board the ship and doesn't cause any tension at all, and it's basically let's be together, screw destiny. That'll rinse repeat. Overall, very good episode. I enjoyed this a lot. Makes me look forward to next week's episode. What do you guys think? Is there anything I forgot to talk about? Leave your thoughts in the comments down below. If you like this video, like, share, and subscribe, and I will talk to you guys soon. Take care.